Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome in the Guerilla Sports Off Ice. JJ Jerez, Meghan Angley, Jesse Montano here to break all things down Avalanche related. Lots to get into today. Avalanche get their first win under their belt in the preseason. Good to see, especially good to see as the roster continues to whittle down and you're seeing more of an NHL group play more of an NHL group. I think that gives us a little bit more confidence than we were feeling a week ago. How are you guys doing? Beautiful fall day today here in Denver, Colorado.
The Avs finally won a preseason game too. I started after one period. I was like, they look like they could win this game. And it just started to get me so excited for the season.
How are you?
Fine. Yeah.
All right.
Not doing backflips and cartwheels over a preseason game, I guess.
I think the first thing I want to get into, and I think the biggest thing from last night is, for me, we can stop the competition on the defensive end. Sam Malinsky has won it. He looked fantastic last night. One little blip of a play where he kind of blew a tire, couldn't really get the puck back. But getting to see him out there with also Brandstrom and Shillington, getting the side-by-side comparison, and Shillington and Brandstrom once again unable to really show anything positive. So for my money, Malinsky is the 6th D in the starting night roster. What do you guys think?
It was an impressive showing from Malinsky again. And there were frames inside this game that weren't good for the Avs as a whole. You know, another instance where it's not as if any one player is without any mistakes, Malinsky included. But what I think I'm also really proud of is, one, he continues to demonstrate that he can score at this level. I think that is just such a hard thing for players coming from college and adjusting to the pro league to do. And for him to do it as quickly as he has and consistently do it is impressive. But the way that he handled himself with top pairing minutes alongside Taves last night and getting opportunities playing a 23-minute night is pretty impressive. You know, it's clear he belongs in the NHL. What can he do, though, when he has that much responsibility in a given night? And he handled himself well. That's not saying he should be elevated to a top pair role, but he could play a 23-minute game. And I just was so impressed with how he handled that opportunity, not having gotten it last year in the regular season.
He's so far ahead of the other three. It's not even funny. Like he's so far ahead of the other three.
I didn't realize until last night that he's 26. Like I knew he was older, having gone through, the college rankings, but I guess it makes sense. When you go that route, you tend to start your freshman year as a 21-year-old. What a life that would be. And then go through 4 years, 25. Here we are at 26. So I feel like I underestimated in that sense. He's got a lot more experience under his belt than I've given him credit for. So I guess it's not as surprising anymore now that I know he's not as young as I thought.
He's older than Eric Brandstrom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Calvin DeHaan's been fine. The other two have been disappointing. They've been outright disappointing.
Almost to like, maybe they don't even want to keep either of them disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if they had that option, like I'll bet you they wish Brandstrom was on a PTO right now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not that he can't play his way into what they were hoping, but Brandstrom, Shillington, two guys they brought in to really push for the roster. I mean, Malinsky's he's lapping them at this point.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, anything else we want to get in on Malinsky?
I thought Cale Makar's answer about him the other day, saying that he's an exceptional high IQ player, just kind of validated what we've been talking about that has given him an edge in this roster battle. every one of these players can move the puck and has been billed as having speed. Malinsky has those qualities as well, but I think that has been the thing that has separated him and has allowed him to look more comfortable and familiar in NHL games, despite having fewer NHL games under his belt.
Yeah, I think the next conversation I wanted to get into was Cal Ritchie, obviously getting some top line minutes and really some heavy use last night. Looked good, got a point on the board, and got that out of the way. Not 26 years old whatsoever, much younger, still got a lot to grow in his role. I think that was apparent last night, but a lot of upside, a lot of positives I think we could take away from last night's game.
Even going back to the Utah game, the audacity of the move that he pulled, I think speaks to the confidence that he plays with for a 19-year-old. Knowing he's playing opposite NHL talent, that doesn't change how he plays the game. And that's where I see Bednar's comment about he loves what he's doing in the offensive zone. It's what he's doing in his own end that still warrants some concern. How much runway do you give a player like that then to figure things out? Because last night, another game where he handled himself really well, playing alongside top-tier talent like a McKinnon and a Drouin. He looks like he belongs there. But there are some things happening in his own end, some mistakes being made, and there's a few players guilty of this. Even Casey Middlestat in his debut had to shake off some rust. So I don't want to hyperfixate on Cal Ritchie's mistakes. I think it's just when you have the conversation around Ritchie, you have every reason to get excited about this player. It shows in games like last night how he handled himself. But you still have to ask the question too, like, can he figure out the defensive side of his game within the span of an 82-game season? That's actually a decent amount of runway. Like, with the other talent that exists on this team, I'm not worried about their playoff chances, even giving a Cal Ritchie a little bit of that runway throughout the season to figure some things out. That feels like I'm starting to build an exception to a rule that the Avs have kind of operated around with young players, but it's unprecedented in that the CHL rule does make this really challenging, and they just released Pierre-Edourd Bellemare from his PTO. They have some flexibility now in their forward group to give a guy like Cal Ritchie a chance. My only concern remains, can they give him meaningful minutes later in the season? That's going to be so critical to his development. But I'm still seeing the NHL fit as an offensive player, just have concerns around how he handles himself in his own end.
That was kind of my thought when the Pierre-Edourd Bellemare releasing of his PTO first happened, is it feels like maybe they're going with Ritchie. Maybe they're saying, all right, I think we got to give this guy a shot. He's raw. There's some things we still have to work with, but we see the potential. We see value in having him and his cheap deal, right? Probably cheaper than Bellemare would have been. At least slightly. I feel like Bellemare would have gotten a little above league min.
Oh, I don't think so.
No?
We'll never know now.
Yeah, doesn't matter anymore, does it? But that was the biggest thing for me. I think it feels like they're giving them a shot, right? They put Kovalenko up with the top guys. We know how they feel about them. Feels like he's definitely going to be on the opening night roster. So seeing Cal Ritchie with that group too, it feels to me that they're going to give the option. But looking at those two, Ritchie and Kovalenko, and how they did with the top line, Cal Ritchie played with Drouin and McKinnon, Kovalenko with McKinnon and Rantanen. So you can't take it, apples for apples. But comparatively, how do you think? Who did you like more in that spot?
Well, there's very different players, so it's hard to say because you were looking for different things out of him. Kovalenko's older; he's got more pro experience. I thought Kovalenko looked more natural there, but again, I think that's to be expected.
Easy for me to say Kovalenko. He looked more polished, in my opinion, made fewer mistakes, but still had that skill upside to match the talent of McKinnon, Rantanen.
How about Ross Colton's performance last night? How did you feel he did on the wing? Because a completely different position for him than he's played in the last year. I know he's used to being a winger, so it's not like he had to, teach an old dog new tricks. But it might have been long enough that he wasn't completely comfortable at the wing. I think maybe the Avalanche play a complex enough of a system that there were different things that he was asked to do, or different things that he's expected to do than maybe in years past when he's played the wing. But didn't feel like he was fully comfortable.
That whole line struggled, especially in the second period, which was hard on the Avs generally. I started to have some worries around the result of the game, not the result of the season, just to be clear. And it's because of the newness of it. Like, you've got Middlestat in his first preseason game. I don't doubt that he's in regular season shape, but you can't replicate gameplay until you just get in it. And so there was a lot of rust in the line driver there in Middlestat, and then Kovalenko and Colton playing there are all new to each other in ways, and it showed. And so I think it's hard for me to evaluate Colton at wing because there is going to be maybe some uncomfortability there, but it also was just uncomfortable, I think, for the whole line because of the newness they were operating around.
Yeah. I heard you guys get into the Pierre-Edourd Bellemare. What do you call it? A waving?
Yeah,
Releasing?
yeah. I was gonna say I was trying to find the word for it last night on Twitter too, and I was just like, because cut seems too harsh.
Yeah.
Release.
He was released back into the wild.
Merciful release. I have a theory now.
What is it?
Well, we were talking about Parker Kelly before the show and how there is this likely path of being on the opening night roster, but they are expecting Arturi Lehkonen and Val Nichushkin back. And because, to your point, off air, he's on a two-way, he's probably getting put in the American League at some point, and a call-up player that will be utilized throughout the season, but he's probably not cementing a place on the NHL roster. That could have been Bellemare, and maybe it's, let's see if another NHL team wants to give this guy a go. That's not a strong theory, but I do wonder if they're like, we're not going to bury him in the American League. We're going to release him to the rest of the league to see if any other teams have interest in him while the camp is still going.
Well, and he can get a sure contract in Europe. If NHL team's knocking, his career's not over. He can easily go play in the Swiss League or something.
And like, I almost do wonder, I mean, because they wouldn't have put Bellemare in the AHL, like they wouldn't have done that to him. Like, I made the argument yesterday on Twitter about the money. And Dario, who we all know, Dario's great. He was like, I just don't really think that was it. The money wouldn't have been that much. And it's like, yeah, it wouldn't have been that much, but you're stuck with that money all year now. Whether it's $800K, $775K, or $10 million, that you're eating that money all year long. And for a team that, when those three players do come back, are going to be so tight against the cap that they are going to have to do some finagling. And I'm still not even fully convinced that Parker Kelly's been on the ice all of training camp, but if he makes the team, that leaves you a lot of flexibility because, again, we can't find this hard confirmed anywhere. Some people have said that he has a two-way contract in his first year and a one-way in his second year. Parker Kelly does. If that really is the case, that's his biggest added value, is that here's a quadruple A player that we can move around.
I definitely felt like I noticed him a little more last night.
Who
cares? Good one, Jesse. Parker Kelly. I felt like he was, I don't know, more present.
Was he on the team last night?
He liked to play the body.
Look, you can't have Malinsky's goal without Parker Kelly. And we love Sam Malinsky, so we have to acknowledge Parker Kelly exists if we're going to acknowledge Sam Malinsky.
Parker Kelly is definitely...
Okay. All right. I know you're kidding.
That one was intentional. That one, I felt like you walked right into that one. But no, to me, and again, I'm not trying to be mean or funny about Parker Kelly, but it's the same thing with Kiviranta last year, where it's like, yeah, see, look at the face you're making. Exactly. Oh wait, what are you looking at? Parker Kelly stuff or Kiviranta last year?
I'm doing both. I'm multitasking. But that was
well, no, I didn't know if the reaction was to
Kiviranta stuff, because when you put it like that, it's like, man.
Because what did you think of Kiviranta last year? Before pre-playoffs, regular season, Yoel Kiviranta.
Not playoff Kivy.
Yeah.
I loved playoff Kivy. He was such a neutral to me. I really didn't have anything against him. I actually think I liked Kivy in the regular season more than I've warmed to what I've seen of Kelly in preseason. And it's just because of what Kivy could do on the penalty kill. I'm concerned if he can do that again this year.
Mhm.
But what he did on the penalty kill last year, I liked.
There were large portions of the season where Yoel Kiviranta was at 5-on-5 a problem for the Avs. Really struggled.
I don't know if I really liked what he did on the penalty kill. I don't know why I said that. No, I deeply recall
love it.
now moments where he looked confused.
Yeah.
And so he was more frozen in place because he wasn't sure where to be. Like, do I engage my guy or do I try to tie up his lane? And I just remember him being kind of frozen in time. And
Yep.
so sorry, I can't even say that.
But point being, Yoel Kiviranta struggled at times in the regular season to the level that when he drew into the playoff lineup and played well, it caught everyone's attention because it was like, whoa, what is this? This is not what we've seen all year. I'd be willing to bet if it was up to Jerez Bednar and injuries and things like that had been a little bit more friendly to the team and you didn't have two different guys gone for multiple months with the player assistance program. Again, truth serum, Jerez Bednar, nothing against Yoel Kiviranta, the person who seems like an outstanding individual.
Good guy, try hard, love the game.
Loves the game. I'd be willing to bet Jerez Bednar probably wished he had an upgrade on Yoel Kiviranta last year. That's the only point I'm making with Parker Kelly. It's this, to me, it's the same type of thing of like everyone falls in love with their own prospects. I think we got caught up a little bit in that as media and then Avalanche fans with the bringing of Brandstrom and Shillington of, oh, we can really dream on these guys. And I think people forgot that you're having to dream on them a little bit and you're having to hope they hit that ceiling. To me, it's the same thing with Parker Kelly. If he's on the opening night roster, I'm happy for Ryan Boulding. Ryan Boulding had him as the 2C going into this season.
What?
And people were just dragging him for it, rightfully. And so Boulding has been rooting for Parker Kelly to make the roster so that he could have that right. So like, I'm happy for Ryan Boulding. I'm happy for Parker Kelly. But the second they've got a better option, they're leveraging that two-way deal. And if the injuries continue to pile up, and yeah, you got more people going to the player assistance program and stuff. Yeah, Parker Kelly's good enough to hang around. But I can tell you for certain right now, Jerez Bednar does not want Parker Kelly probably on that roster come round one, game one.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that ability to just be able to move him back and forth. He might move back and forth a lot this season, but just simply having that and not worrying about waivers or having your roster whittled down by other teams scooping him up.
I do still think he has to go through waivers, though. It's just that when they send him down, he has a lesser salary. So it makes more sense to bury him there because you're not having to pay him the full boat. Again, I could be wrong in that because I haven't even found anything that hard says he does have a two-way deal this year. Just enough people have been like, oh, no, that is true. That I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's the case. But anywhere it's listed online, it's just listed as a 2-year contract. I didn't know you could split them 2-way and 1-way. But again, I've had 4 or 5 people tell me, yes, he's got a 2-way contract this year and a 1-way contract next year. None of them have been people with the organization. So I'm just assuming that's the case. But again, the flexibility is this guy's on a 2-way deal. It's easier for us to send him down, call him up, et cetera, et cetera. If he passes through waivers once, well, then you've got 30 days where you can just be moving him back and forth. And so again, Parker Kelly he's an outstanding hockey player. He's in the top 1% of hockey players anywhere. He's an unbelievable player. His biggest feather in the cap right now for him with the Avs is that he's got roster flexibility, and Pierre-Edourd Bellemare would not have.
I don't know if Puckpedia has the contract information, but right now his minor salary is the same as his NHL salary. So I don't know what to make of that. If they're just kind of, it's a template for a generic contract and they don't know the minor salary if it is a 2-way.
Again, I didn't even know that was possible, that you could sign a contract that was 2-way 1 year and 1-way the next. I didn't think you could do that.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought you had to either sign a 2-way deal or a 1-way deal.
Well, it's the same in both years.
It's a 1.5 way.
So I don't know if it's just again, just kind of generically entered in there,
Right,
or
right.
if that what it is. That what it is, 2 years.
If that what it is. Yeah, so I'm not sure. But again, going based off of how many people have confidently said it to me, I'm gonna roll with that, and that's the part that you feel better about.
Well, the biggest caveat and X factor is kind of what Megan already brought up is Artturi Lehkonen. I mean, he's getting closer. It seems like the Avalanche are, I mean, even when we first talked to Bednar, he's like, yeah, maybe he'll be ready by opening night. He's skating with the team, hasn't shed the red jersey yet, but we still got, what, 5 days till opening night?
Wednesday, so yeah.
So
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yep. 5 full days.
5 full
if you're
days.
counting today. 6.
This is something I think in my head that I should not say aloud, but when it comes to
I love that you're putting it on the record then.
when it comes to the no contact jersey, there's no shade in between resuming contact and red. And so it just changes in an instant. And I know that feels so obvious and dumb to say out loud, but that's where I feel with Artturi Lehkonen is he could show up in a regular contact jersey tomorrow. There just isn't kind of a step in between, and that has felt like the closeness in seeing him stay longer and longer for practices and for full morning skates. That is what I'm evaluating off of, and that tells me he is very close. And so it does feel like in an instant that red becomes a white.
He's red and a half.
He's red and a half. Well, exactly. And I know that sounds tough.
Well, no, but you're right though, because there isn't, when people ask like, oh, they're wearing the non-contact jersey, it's like, yeah, but like we've seen it before when a guy will be skating in red by himself, and then he joins the team for like warm-ups of practice, and then he starts taking part in some drills, and then even though they're in the red, like we'll see guys start to take contact wearing the red jersey. It's light contact, it's not as much. They're not put in like the battle drills and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. When they're practicing with the team, that's kind of like the pink jersey.
It feels pink right now.
Right. Yeah.
It was a shoulder, right?
Surgery. Yep. Shoulder surgery.
So I can see the hesitance to fully engage him in contact, but I mean, he's working out. We don't see him in any sort of brace. I mean, we've seen him a couple times off ice with, his workout clothes, and he's looks completely normal. So I could get why they're just being extra cautious, making sure it's 100% healed before any sort of contact, especially when Miles Wood is on the ice.
Well, that was the funniest part about it, was he was on the ice for that whole practice. Miles Wood injured Eric Brandstrom. And then they started doing those battle drills, and Lecky was like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this today.
So yeah, I could easily see Artturi Lehkonen being ready sooner than later, and this whole Parker Kelly conversation doesn't even matter anymore because he's fully back in the AHL.
Well, and that's the thing I want to keep reminding people. We're talking so much about roster battles and all the bottom of this roster and all Mamba. There's 3 top 6 players coming back. And people who have listened to all of our episodes are probably annoyed at me saying this. You guys are probably sick of me saying this, but it's an entire line. 3 you're losing whoever's on that opening night roster. 3 of them are gone because we're expecting Val back in about a month. Very suddenly, we're 4 weeks out from Val being able to return. Lehkonen, like you said, they projected potentially opening night. He's moving into that pink jersey. So like, oh man, who's going to make it? It could all be moot in 4 weeks time.
100%. We got to talk about something.
Well, no. I'm just saying, like, long-term, when we're talking about how guys fit and how they, it's like, we're just trying to get the Avs are just trying to get through the
stopgap.
Right.
Yep.
The first 2-3 weeks. So again, I'm partially being funny about Parker Kelly just because we kind of forgot about him all summer. But also it's like, we could spin around in circles about Parker Kelly or Bellemare and Parker Kelly or Bell. Oh, Kevin Ryan. It's probably not really going to matter. If you're the Avs, you hope it's probably really not going to matter.
Yeah.
Long term of these guys who are battling, assuming health and assuming 1-year suspensions, you're really looking and evaluating Richie and Kovalenko as guys that can they be here, to Megan's point earlier, long term? Round 1, game 1, can those guys stick? And I really think that's the true long-term evaluation we're doing here. And that's why I think to answer the original question, as surprised as I was by the Bellemare thing, because he was such a good cultural fit, when you stop and think about it, it makes sense. Why are you just going to carry that guy around all season?
Well, we were all shocked when we heard that he was coming in for a PTO in the first place.
Right.
So I guess it's not so shocking to see that he gets released back into the wild, and we've talked about it on this show. Didn't really stand out. Didn't grab it and take it.
The first day of camp, when we talked to him in the locker room, I was like, whoa, give this dude a deal.
Yep.
But you're right. He never separated. None of the forwards have really separated.
And they gave him every opportunity. He was in basically every preseason game except I think one so far. So a lot like Oscar Lawson, your point, we've seen enough.
Yeah.
We're not even going to take this to
good.
game 5. We'll let you go try and get a deal elsewhere.
You had a mischievous look on your face.
I think Ivan actually stood out in a positive way. I'm not penciling him in the regular NHL lineup, especially because they have genuine flexibility with him. But I think he deserves some credit for the camp that he's had. And his performance last night just solidified it. He looked to me like an NHL player playing opposite a Vegas team that is filled with NHL players. I really feel like he has acclimated so well so quickly. His trajectory has just skyrocketed from the minute that he came on an American League contract only as this undrafted kid. I'm just really proud of him. What I liked too, that because for a second I thought Kiviranta forgot he was in the mix, but Kiviranta, Wagner, Parker Kelly,
Wagner too.
That's what I'm saying. There's still Tynan's still floating around up there somewhere.
Tynan's just such a known quantity. Sorry.
No, he is. But it's just like, man, there's all these names of people who've had opportunity. And then there's Ivan who looks like an NHL player. And I'm just proud of the way that he tried to protect his net front last night. Like, he's not an afraid kid. He doesn't mind playing opposite men because he's still pretty young himself. And I liked how he looked in both ends. Honestly, he's unafraid to get to the dangerous areas on either ends of the ice. And I just like so many things about him. And he has more polish than you would expect such a young player to have.
Can we also, on that, I was thinking about this in the shower this morning. Can we, and can people out there, can we stop with the Avs can't develop? Can we stop with that? Can that officially be dead now?
I'll stop if you want.
Like Sam Malinsky looks like that. Like he's got legitimate top 4 potential. That's an undrafted college free agent they brought into the organization.
A null success story.
And Ivan signed as a free agent, brought in, developed, looks like he can push for NHL time this year. Cal Ritchie missed camp last year. They've developed him. They've worked with him all summer long. He got to town early.
Is all this credit to scouting or development, though? Because
I think both. Because like, again, people want to. Kovalenko looks like a polished NHL level player. By the way, Richie Kovalenko, both draft picks.
And Kovalenko, a late
round draft pick. I think the Avs do not get anywhere near the credit for players that they have developed, because people want to fixate on, well, who did they draft? Did they draft anybody out of the second round they've developed? Who cares? They're finding players all over. Logan O'Connor just got a 6-year, $15 million deal. That's a player they plucked out of college that nobody else wanted, and they've developed him from earning a contract in camp, full-time AHLer, black ace, draws into the lineup. And again, you just signed him for 6 years, and he wore a letter a couple nights ago, and he's a key part of your middle six. Like, we're sitting here, and Megan, you just mentioned Ivan. Like, the Avs are developing players that are pushing for NHL roles.
That's a full year in the American League in the Avs developmental system that has benefited him. And I think it is scouting in a Cal Ritchie sense, because he's not really gotten to work with development staff as much as the others. But for Kovalenko, similar to, hasn't had as much time with the Avs organization. But
and
Ivan Malinsky,
Ivan came in the last year's camp and raised all of our eyebrows last year.
He
So
did.
he's taken a step forward. So yes, they've developed him in that sense, but he showed up and said, "Hey, I'm gonna make some noise here." And again, that screams more scouting than development to me.
Well, and that's where there have been changes to their scouting department even since then, because they looked at the success of Ivan and said, we want more of these. We want more of these guys. So we want to find the people who find more guys like Ivan. And so it's both, in my opinion. And Justus Annunen.
Yeah.
He's seeing the puck a lot
Hey,
better.
he was fantastic last night.
I'm not gonna like a development win based on one game, but
no, he looked sharp. He looked
much better.
He wasn't scrambling. He looked very calm and just composed.
But it's not just one game for Annunen. That's a multi-year contract to be an NHL backup. Like there's
and that's more the development path that I
Right.
guess is in my mind traditional. The way they handled Annunen, give him a couple of years in the AHL, not just one quick season.
Well, and he even had to go from being the backup in the AHL to splitting time to, was it just 2 years ago that he kind of took over as the number one? And then even last year, he had to earn the call up. He sat behind Ivan Prosvetov for a lot of the year. And, you know, even with Kovalenko, KHL is a little bit different, but like when you're talking about guys that, you know, like Cal Ritchie, to your point, they haven't had him necessarily in the system that much, but like, they're very hands-on with those types of players.
it's true.
You know, when he's with Oshawa, like they're dealing a lot. Like when Cale Makar was at UMass, you're crazy if you think that Joe Sakic wasn't on the phone 3 times a week. Like, what's he doing? What's he eating? Are you guys getting him in enough workouts? Is he taking, like, they're very involved with this stuff. There's stuff that they want to see. And I just feel like they, you know, we'll see 3 articles written at the start of the season. Oh, the Avs still struggling to develop draft picks, and no. And they're developing players all over the organization. And even on the roster this year, there's going to be players. It's going to be littered with players that the Avalanche organization has developed, whether it be from young players into NHL players or from, you know, again, use examples like Lehkonen and Val, from guys that were considered middling, bottom 6, middle 6 into bona fide high-end top 6 players, or in Val's case, elite 200-foot players when they're fucking playing. Like it's just the scouting, identifying players that are good fits for the organization, and then developing them into what the Avs need. It's all over the place now. And I just think that we need to put the Avs can't develop thing to bed, because it's factually not true.
Yeah, I think we need to change the way we talk about it. Even Drouin, in just a year under
Yes.
the Avs tutelage,
Yes.
changed the way that he played hockey, and he had a pretty established role as a player prior to that, and he was willing to learn. The learning hasn't stopped for any of these players. McKinnon, in the Cup season, had to change the way that he played hockey, not this complete overall. He just had to build more things into his game to help bring them to the Cup. And so even players like McKinnon aren't above development. And I think it's worthy of a call out that it's happening across the roster, and it's happening with guys who weren't drafted internally, because there has been a great pro scouting staff that has really carried the weight. And I think that's where they want the amateur scouting staff to really start picking up some of the slack. And so Ivan is a great start. I still like Jason Poland's fit. I really like Sam Malinsky, obviously. I think finding more players in an unconventional way like that too can be a part of the success story.
Yeah, and development doesn't have to be exclusive to the AHL, right? And I guess that's kind of what you're saying. Credit to Jerez Bednar for still taking these guys and molding them into who he needs them to be.
Well, and you know, we're also going to get to see what they can do with Casey Middlestat. You know, I asked Jerez just a couple days ago about, like, how exciting was that you guys went out and not only solved your 2C problem, and I want to preface this by saying this is not a shot at Claude Giroux. I think Claude Giroux, you know, would have been a fine solution at 2C. He obviously wasn't available last year, but, like, you know, they didn't go out and get a guy like Claude Giroux who's like, all right, let's see if we can win a cup for this guy. No, they went and got a young player who's coming into his prime soon, is still not there, that they think can still be molded and can still take a few steps. And Jerez even said, like, we think Casey's in a really good spot because we think that this is a guy that should be able to grow and take a few more steps. So like we're gonna get to see how the development track continues with a guy like Casey Middlestat. And, let's also, I didn't even mention Sam Girard, who, like we talked about the other day, entered the organization at 19 years old, and they've turned him into a set and forget top 4 defenseman. Like there's development all over the place. And the way you build championship teams is by finding unconventional ways to build deep teams, because you're just not, if you're truly going for it to win, you're not going to have super high draft picks every year. And you're not going to be, hitting on every single first and second round pick that you get. You've got to find ways to get new players into the organization. The Avs have done that maybe better than anyone. And, oh, by the way, a lot of those players that they have drafted and that have had high potential, they've turned into valuable pieces on their roster. I didn't even mention Bowen Byram, who they turned into a 2C. They didn't turn him into a 2C, but they built his game up to the point where they could move him and bring in a piece that they really needed.
Yeah.
Alex Newhook, same type of thing. Why is his name completely escaping me? The defenseman they also traded to Montreal. Barons.
No. Tim.
Nope. Sean. Nope.
One more back.
Justin Barron.
Justin Barron.
Justin Barron. That was a player that a bunch of Avs fans were like, oh man, but they went and brought in Arturi Lehkonen, who scored the Western Conference and cup clinching goals for them 2 months later, way over, outpacing expectations for what people thought Lehkonen was going to be. There's the fact that they just cut Pierre-Edourd Bellemare, which some of the same people I saw yesterday leaving crying gifs all over Twitter were saying, what are they doing bringing this guy in? Don't they want to play the kids? They're playing the young players in their lineup, and they're playing the players that they think are best.
That's actually too, we should not have entertained the criticism of they don't play the kids. Last year, there were so many NHL debuts to include Poland and Malinsky. And Foodie got games. Oscar Olausson was on track to also get games, had an injury.
Yep.
That is so many NHL opportunities for young players that are just completely being overlooked. That's not a Martin Kaut, and I'm forgetting his name, like Shane Bowers, barely getting opportunities. This is very different, and no one's getting opportunities that they didn't earn. Oscar Olausson probably wouldn't have stayed up with the big club if he had a performance similar to what we saw in this camp preseason, but the opportunity was given.
Well, and I think about guys like AJ Greer, right? Because that was always the conversation with him. They don't give him enough opportunities, and when they do, they don't do enough with them. They don't give him enough minutes. They don't whatever. Like the players that you're mentioning, like they put them in spots in the lineup where it's like, hey, this is what you're good at. Cool. Jean-Luc Foodie, go skate with the top 6. Again, he didn't play a ton of minutes, but like they gave those players those reps. I just think that the Avs are going to give themselves a chance to be competitive this year, and a lot of it's going to be driven by players that they have brought in and developed. And again, everyone kind of threw their hands up when they signed the couple defensemen, 3 defensemen, saying, oh, well, I guess they're giving up on Sam Malinsky. And that has not been the case at all.
Yeah. No, I mean, more to Jack Bednar or Jared Bednar, at least deserving a nod for Jack Adams, right? I mean, if there was a Jack Adams that took a body of work rather than just season by season, I think Jared Bednar would be a shoo-in for winning that, but obviously that doesn't exist.
It's crazy him and John Cooper have a combined 0 Jack Adams.
I think people, have heard the Bednar comment of the NHL is not a development league and don't give enough respect to his East Coast American League background, where teaching was just ingrained in him. And he is still that type of coach. He just can't give full access runway to players to learn at the NHL level. It has to make some kind of sense, but he's not above the teaching.
Yeah. And I mean, you even look at the intensity of this game from last night, definitely picked up. It felt more like a regular season game. That's a Jared Bednar tweaking, right? I mean, obviously the lineup was better. The lineup was stronger, but I think Jared Bednar getting his messages heard of like, all right, we need to pick up the intensity. We need to do better. Miles Wood was not demoted. He got his regular spot on that third line back, but I think he even looked better, right? So that's Jared Bednar just kind of putting his little pulses throughout the year and just tweaking small things throughout the season. It's a body of work, not just what have you done for me lately. And Jared Bednar, I mean, he's just proving on and on and on that he's the man.
He gets a lot out of his players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NHL. And there was someone who over the summer asked what I thought of how long Jared Bednar would stay here. Barring something taking a hard right turn, or Jared Bednar doing something like away from the rink, like I think Jared Bednar's here for like the long haul.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
he's just done so much to set the tone for the culture and the way that things operate here. Like, we were up in Loveland yesterday checking on Eagles camp, and we talked to Aaron Schneekloth after. And I just asked him, I said, Jared Bednar said that it's valuable to have you at camp so that you and him can work directly. And Schneekloth, echoed that and essentially said, like, yeah, I try to soak up as much of his knowledge as I can and the way that he communicates and what he wants communicated so that I can make sure when I'm dealing with these players, I'm communicating that same message. And like everyone looks to Jared Bednar.
Well, and in that same interview, Schneekloth even was like, man, these guys came out here intense and they're skating hard and fast. Like maybe not something you're totally used to as an AHL coach heading into training camp day one, but that's just the way they were already used to playing at Avs camp. So they brought it down to Eagles camp, and Schneekloth was probably like, whoa, these guys are flying.
I felt more than seasons before too that the communication, and it's Bednar, but it's also the front office with Eagles staff, is better than ever in communicating what the Avs need right now. And I felt like that has just been made so clear to the players then what is needed from the Avs right now. Can they fulfill that? And so I think there's just a better understanding, and I think that's producing better results too. Obviously, Olausson and Foudy not being a part of the conversation for longer is disappointing, but Steinberg and Poland keeping themselves a part of the conversation as long as they did, and then Ivan still being up with the big club, I think reflect that this communication of what the Avs need right now has been made clear. And I think that boils down to someone like Bednar making it pretty black and white what they need right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And to circle us back, I think Ivan definitely a guy we'll be seeing throughout the season. Maybe not starting roster opening night, but definitely a guy I think we'll get comfortable with throughout the year, depending how injuries go, needs, etc. But still, what 6 guys need to be cut?
I haven't counted today.
Roster was at 30, then they released Bellemare back into the Wild, so I think 6. No, I didn't mean to stump you guys. Did you guys watch the game with the announcers and everything too?
I had it muted half the time.
There was a moment where the Vegas play-by-play guy goes, and Ivan, his dad confirmed that the name was intentional. I
heard this,
and it threw me back. Like, what was it going to be on accident? Like, let's name him Ivan. No,
but wait, we're Ivan.
I already filled out the birth certificate. Doing
right. I thought
Seinfeld theme song cuts in. Yeah,
somebody does one of these. So yeah, I we'll see how the rest of it plays out, but it might just be a lot of conversation for nothing, just a couple games here and there for each of the guys. But it seems like Malinsky and Cal Ritchie are really earning a spot and a name for themselves.
I want to add the rest of what the announcer was trying to say. It was intentional because the dad wanted him to have a special name that made him unique.
It's that for sure.
And Ivan has said he wants the reason that he's special and unique to be the way that he plays hockey, and
Love
not
it.
because of his name.
Good for him. Good for him.
I wonder how many people out there have been named on accident, though.
I know you hate Family Guy, but there's the bit in Family Guy where Meg's full name isn't Megan, it's Megatron. Peter changed the birth certificate after when he was walking up to the.
You're right. I do hate Family Guy, but every time you bring it up like this and tell me a little snippet from it, I genuinely laugh. I think we got to get to some news across the league. Yaroslav Askarov, out of nowhere, getting sent to the Barracudas.
Sorry for being on my phone. I was just clapping back at someone on Twitter over this.
Over
topic.
Askarov?
Yeah, because and it sounds like there is some context to this, but I was pretty surprised to see this.
Yeah.
And someone goes, "Did you really think he would be in the NHL with Vanacek and Blackwood there?" It's like, first of all, you're thinking awfully high of two goalies that have ended up in San Jose. And two, yeah, this guy's in San Jose because he said, "Eat shit. I'm not playing in the American League, Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Get me somewhere that I can play in the NHL." So he went to the worst team in the league. That's probably going to be the worst team in the league again this year. And don't know if that person's been paying attention, but Vitek Vanacek is on his third team in 3 seasons. Like, it's not going well for that guy. Blackwood has been a career backup all over the place.
Plays great against the Avs.
Plays outstanding against the Avs, but he's been on, a bunch of different teams in just the last few years. Yaroslav Askarov is largely considered the best goaltending prospect in hockey still. And again, Evan Rowell and Corey Massak both reached out and were like, yeah, he's been hurt. This seems more like a conditioning stint type thing. But I fully expect Askarov to be in the NHL with the Sharks this year. They're a bottom feeding team. They don't need stellar goaltending. And this is a guy who has already refused to report to Milwaukee, where Nashville is planning on sending him.
Yeah, conditioning stint makes a lot more sense.
I think, too, the people arguing, "Oh, you didn't seriously expect," aren't there in good faith because he has not even skated with his team because of this injury.
Right.
It's just very clearly about this lower body injury and not, he sucks.
Yeah.
Why did you fools believe in him?
and like, I'll raise my hand on this. I haven't been paying attention to San Jose Sharks camp. I didn't know he hadn't been playing. So when I saw that, I was like, holy smokes. They really, apparently his development has fallen off a cliff. When I found out there was injuries with it, that made a lot more sense to me. This is a guy that the Avs were in on, and I think would have been a 50-50 split in Colorado had the Avs landed him with one of Justus Annunen or Alexander Georgiev. Man, all of your money problems would have gone away in an instant if you would have flipped Georgiev for Askarov. Holy smokes. But this is a guy who thinks he's an NHL goaltender. And the Nashville Predators didn't. And it's a guy who I think has a chip on his shoulder and has got to prove something this year.
Yeah, the Avs would be in a bit of a pickle, though, if this was the situation and he had to go through a conditioning stint and all they really had left was Justus Annunen and Mandolese or whoever.
Yeah. Yeah. This would have been a long play, though.
Yeah.
It would have been the long game if you would have brought in Askarov.
Well, San Jose now has 3 goalies. I mean, if they were to get rid of a Vanacek or a Blackwood, those are good names to go somewhere else as backups. Backups. Yeah. There's 3 really good backup goalies they've got over there.
3 great backup goalies they've got over there.
That's about it. Anything else you guys want to get to before?
Was there one other?
Oh yeah, that the regular season started.
Oh
today.
yeah, this
Didn't even acknowledge it. Oops.
It just drives me nuts. Like, this is the best sport in the world. Let people know the season is starting. And I also don't get. Well, I shouldn't say I don't get. I understand why when they do these global series games, they wanted the Avs. There was a lot of problems with the Avs. Coincidentally, the year they won the Cup. Yeah, the year they won the Cup. The schedule was a fucking mess. The jet lag was brutal for the players. It led to a really bad condensed schedule after that because they gave them a full week off before and a full week off after. And then you only played Columbus twice. So I get why they want to send them early so that by the time they get back, the rest of the league is getting started. But if you're going to do this, you need to get preseason wrapped up. The regular season and preseason are both happening today.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible marketing and scheduling. And then you have what should be a marquee game on a Friday happening during the day. Like, that's kind of cool. And like, I've seen a couple Instagram posts about it from the NHL, like nothing else advertising. Like, if they wanted to kick the season off in Europe every year, I'd be in favor of that. I think that'd be awesome. Kick it off with marquee events.
Why not just do the whole preseason in Europe? Send everybody.
I'd be in for that.
I think we just want to go to Europe.
But it just drives me nuts. I saw all over Twitter that no one had any idea.
I saw the reaction over Twitter like, hey, didn't know, this is pretty crazy. And that's what clued me in too. And I think I have a frustration when you're going to put expense and work into something and then fall short of the details, like promoting it. That drives me crazy because this is a huge undertaking, I'm sure, in a lot of different ways and a huge expense. And you're not even promoting it properly. What a letdown.
Right. I was in favor when the NHL had the opportunity with the COVID schedule that messed everything up. I've talked about it before. I thought the NHL should have seized that opportunity and shifted the season and run it January through September and then taken the holidays off, October, November, December. And I was in favor. I thought you should have started the season with the Winter Classic. New Year's Day, the only game, it's the first game of the season. You play the Winter Classic. And then you start the season from there and you play through the summer and you dominate the summer because no one cares about regular season baseball. And then right around mid-July, you start the playoffs, you run the playoffs mid-July through August, end them in September.
I hate it.
Why?
For their families and the kids in school and things like that. Like, they don't get their summer with their kids.
Yeah, they're poor families. They get to be with them during the holidays.
That their kids, like, a few weeks for holidays versus months of summer.
I didn't think about that part of it, Megan.
Family vacation.
I like
vote
it.
against. Thank you.
Two versus one here. I like the idea.
Not getting the summer would suck for them to not be off in the summer, but put the All-Star break there. And then they can go to like the Southern Hemisphere in the winter for vacation.
You're right, they can.
The families and stuff in the summer, I'll definitely give you that. But I still think that from to your point of if you're going to put all the time and effort and stuff into it, get your season away from the NFL. The NHL is terrified of competing with the NFL, understandably. The NFL beat church for Sunday.
Even the NBA.
Right. And so it's like you could have had the dog days of your season be when the NBA playoffs are going on. So it's like, cool. Let the NBA have that. And then right as that's done, it could have been NBA championship, NBA finals. Right as that's done, the NHL trade deadline, and then you sprint to the end of the season. So all of that's to say, I'm in favor of the NHL starting the season with marquee events. And to Megan's point, if you're going to go all the way to Europe, make a big deal out of it.
Yep.
Those trips are about growing the game. And your core audience here didn't even know it was happening. So if you're going to go through the effort, market it,
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel as strongly as you. I definitely think it's dumb that the regular season is starting before the preseason even ends.
Right.
But that's about it.
New Jersey and Buffalo had to have their rosters finalized, and the Avs still have 6 cuts to make.
It has been very weird. Like, Dallas was playing their 4th preseason game when the Avs are playing like their 2nd.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. That was weird.
Just odd stuff.
And we heard from Jerez Bellemare the other day. He's like, I really only need like 10 days.
Yeah, and I know it's part of the new CBA negotiations, shortening preseason and extending the regular season. But honestly, if you took this down to 3 games and a week, yeah, take it to 85. I don't care.
I think the Avs milked it for what it was this year, but wouldn't ordinarily want this.
Thought it was interesting. There's someone that we talked to. I believe it was the first day of camp. They were on the phone making plans for next year's preseason, which I just thought was interesting. There's a couple things. One, super chat. Vaguely sober. Sweaty boy season is officially here. It is. It's officially here, and we didn't even know it. It started in Europe today.
So true.
Big shout out to Vaguely Sober, as always. 2, our Gen Z social media manager would like us to give our predictions on when Jared Bednar cuts his hair.
I'm going to say right when Gabe Landeskog hits the ice in mid-November, same time Valenchushkin hits the ice, it's all going to happen in a wave. He's like, hey, I got to look good for my family pictures coming up for Thanksgiving. Wait, no, when's Canadian Thanksgiving? It's a whole month before.
It's October 14th.
Oh, I'm going to say October 13th. He wants to look good for those family pictures.
That's actually in alignment with what I was thinking is kind of just the start of the regular season, which is the 12th. So, like, I don't know, maybe he's got an appointment on the 11th.
I'm just going to go off the board here. I'm going to say he doesn't cut it. He
just little trims
lets
to
it ride.
It.
Not even the trim. He's just going to let it ride.
Full Colorado, he's going dreads.
Yep. Yeah, I think he lets it. He does the reverse this year. He cuts it on the first day of the playoffs.
That's interesting. I like that prediction.
I think he looks so great with shorter hair. I wonder who's in his ear being like, no, keep it long. Keep going. Keep it going.
He's a handsome devil. Let's get his wife on the pod.
Susan,
let's get her on the line.
Like?
Yeah.
Can we call Miss Bednar?
Because I would love to know what she thinks. Because maybe it's her. Maybe she's like, keep it going. Don't stop the flow. And he's just listening.
Yeah.
Just being a good husband, following the marching orders.
And just his bottomless basket of hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whips out a new hat every time we see him.
I mean, dude, he's just dripping every time we see him.
Yeah, he is. Cool. I think it's a good place to stop.
If you're listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, coach. I think, again, we just said you're dripping every day.
Yeah.
So you're doing great.
We didn't throw any insults. Coach loves us.
That Colorado flag color hat, the reverse retro one he had last week was sick. I even told him, hey, it's a great looking hat.
This is going to be a hot take, but I think the new Fanatics hat looks pretty fresh too. We saw Sean Barron's wearing it when we talked to him. Jared Bednar's had it on a couple times. Actually looks like a really nice hat.
I agree. Good looking hat.
I've not noticed the hats, and it's revealing something about me and what I pay attention to.
It's maybe
Megan's sitting there thinking about hockey and rosters. Me and you were like, "Ooh, nice hat."
Damn, is that a new hat? Oh, it's a Fanatics one. It's Fanatics one. Sick.
Did you see his hat?
Yeah.
What are they whispering about?
Well, and I can't help but point out, but Jared Bednar does not wear any of that awful blue for the hats. He's always got the navy, got the burgundy.
Thank goodness.
Uh-huh.
Don't like that blue.
It's too bright for that type of stuff.
I've noticed that.
It's too bright for that type of stuff.
Right on. Well, we'll hit you with more things we're noticing next week. I hope everybody out there has a fantastic weekend. If you are listening and you live in Colorado, enjoy the beautiful Colorado day.
Should we plug the magnets one more time?
Yeah. Have we gotten a lot of response?
Yeah. Chloe's keeping them nice and organized upstairs, so we should be able to get them out nice and clean. But if you haven't, make sure you are following Guerilla Sports Off Ice on Instagram and X. And then DMs are open on X. Shoot us a DM to that account. Let us know you want a magnet.
Cool. Well, that being said, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys next week.
Love you.
Love you.